On an ordinary evening in a quiet restaurant in downtown Los Angeles, when the city lights shimmered like stars reflected on the calm waters of the bay, 30-year-old billionaire Spencer Blackwell, CEO of Blackwell Innovations, one of the most influential tech companies in the country, stepped out of his sleek midnight blue limousine and paused for a moment before the unassuming facade of a small, family-run bistro. It wasn't the sort of place he normally frequented. After all, as a high-powered executive accustomed to extravagant gala dinners, exclusive private clubs and rooftop lounges overlooking the sprawling metropolis, Spencer's world had always been defined by opulence and precision. Yet something about the quiet charm of this restaurant seemed to call to him, as if it promised a respite from the relentless pressure of corporate life. With a measured breath, he pushed open the door and stepped inside, where the warm hum of conversation and the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread mingled with the soft strains of a classic jazz melody playing in the background. The gentle glow of the pendant lights cast inviting shadows over the polished wooden tables and the faded vintage decor, a stark contrast to the cold, minimalist lines of the boardrooms he knew so well. Spencer requested a table in the far corner, away from the occasional clatter of dishes and the murmur of overlapping conversations. He settled into the seat, his eyes briefly scanning the menu, though his thoughts wandered far beyond the culinary offerings. No matter how many deals he closed or how high he soared on the wings of success, there remained a quiet, gnawing emptiness, a sense that something crucial was missing, as though a part of his heart had been locked away, waiting for a chance to be set free. His reverie was interrupted when a waiter approached and, with a courteous smile, asked, "Good evening, sir. What may I get for you tonight?" Spencer looked up and replied in a calm, measured tone, "I'll have the grilled sea bass with a side of roasted asparagus and a glass of sparkling water, please." As the waiter nodded and departed, Spencer leaned back in his chair, letting his gaze drift across the room. The ambient clinking of silverware, the soft laughter of a nearby table, and the muted conversation all seemed to underscore the ordinary beauty of the moment. Yet one detail, one subtle nuance, suddenly caught his eye and sent his pulse racing. Across the dining room, gracefully weaving between tables with an effortless professionalism, a waitress caught Spencer's attention. There was something undeniably familiar about her, the way she moved, the soft kindness in her eyes, and the quiet determination etched on her face, as if she carried an unspoken story behind her every gesture. Spencer's heart skipped a beat, and though he struggled to pinpoint exactly why, he felt an inexplicable pull. He watched her for several long seconds, his mind racing as memories began to stir. Perhaps it was just a random thought, he told himself, an echo of a long-forgotten dream, but the feeling persisted, growing more insistent with each passing moment. When the waitress finally approached his table with his meal, Spencer's breath caught in his throat. "Here is your order, sir," she said with a polite smile as she carefully set the plate before him. Her voice gentle and lilting, and the set of her features struck him as eerily familiar, like a half-remembered dream from another time. Spencer stared at her, his mind working frantically to place the memory. "Thank you," he managed, though his voice trembled with an emotion he couldn't quite name. The waitress offered a subtle nod and moved on to tend to other customers, completely unaware of the storm of recollection she had just ignited within him. Unable to shake the feeling, Spencer sat there, staring at his untouched meal. His thoughts raced. He knew her. He was certain he did. There was a mix of excitement and bittersweet longing in his chest as he recalled faint images from his childhood. A kind, encouraging smile, the gentle murmur of a teacher's voice in a quiet classroom. The sensation was so powerful that Spencer felt compelled to find out the truth. He raised his hand, signaling the waitress to return to his table. "Excuse me," he began, his voice steady despite the rapid thudding of his heart. "May I ask you something personal?" The waitress paused, tilting her head in mild surprise as she replied, "Personal? I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that?" Taking a deep breath, Spencer leaned forward. "Yes, I'd like to know your name, please." The woman's eyes widened for a split second, and then, as if the years themselves had caught up with her, she whispered, "My name is Mia Anderson." In that instant, Spencer felt as if time had stilled. The name struck a resonant chord within him, one that carried with it memories of long ago days when he was a shy, hopeful boy. sitting in a small classroom listening to the kind, patient voice of a teacher who once believed in him. His heart pounded as he stammered. "Me? Don't you remember me? I was in your 5th grade class at Lakeside Elementary." For a moment, the entire restaurant seemed to fade away into silence, and Mia's face turned ashen, as if a great secret had been unveiled. Slowly, her eyes searched his, and then recognition dawned. "Spencer? Is that really you?" she asked softly, her voice trembling with disbelief. I'm not sure I understand," Mia stuttered, stepping back as if cautious of what might come next. Spencer's voice grew gentle yet laden with emotion as he continued. "Yes, it's me. I remember every word you spoke, every encouragement you gave. You used to tell me, 'Spencer, you're going to do great things, just believe in yourself.' I never forgot that, Mia. You changed my life." A tumult of memories washed over Mia. Images of a quiet, determined young boy with wide, hopeful eyes, afternoons spent in a humble classroom where a caring teacher's words lit a spark inside him. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, I remember you too. I always wondered how you were doing." For a long moment, neither spoke as the weight of the past and the uncertainty of the present merged into a single, poignant silence. Finally, Spencer spoke, his voice thick with both gratitude and regret. "I can't believe I'm here right now, after all these years. I've built a life, an empire even, but something has always felt missing, like a piece of my heart was left behind." Mia's face softened as she slowly sank into the memory of her former self, a time when she was not burdened by the responsibilities of a high-profile career. "I used to be a teacher," she said quietly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I taught at Lakeside Elementary until things changed. I had to leave, and I never meant to lose touch with you." Her voice broke on the last words, and Spencer's heart ached as he reached out to take her hand. "I always hoped I'd see you again, Mia. You were the one who believed in me when I was just a kid, and I never forgot that." The moment was heavy, with a bittersweet mix of nostalgia and sadness. Mia's eyes, once full of the warmth of a dedicated teacher, now carried the quiet sorrow of dreams deferred. "I loved teaching," she confessed softly, "but life took me down a different path. I had to work to survive, and sometimes I wondered if I'd ever get a chance to return to the person I once was." Spencer's gaze grew tender, and with a slight smile he replied, "Mia, you changed my life. Your kindness gave me the courage to pursue my dreams. Everything I've achieved, I owe it to you." His words, simple and sincere, stirred something deep within her. I never imagined that the shy little boy from my classroom would grow up to become a man like you," Mia murmured, her voice wavering with emotion. "I always hoped you'd do great things, and here you are, proving that even in a world of unimaginable success, the simple truth of compassion can never be forgotten." Their conversation flowed slowly, each word steeped in memories and unspoken apologies. Spencer recalled those quiet afternoons in class when Mia had spent extra time with him after lessons, offering encouragement and reading him stories that fueled his imagination. Mia, in turn, remembered the bright, earnest eyes of a child who had once filled her with hope. A child who, against all odds, had grown into a confident, successful man. "I always believed in you," she whispered, her voice soft and trembling. "You were the best part of my day." Spencer reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Mia," he said, his tone gentle yet insistent, "I need you to know something." With shaky hands, he slid the box across the table. "Please, open it." Mia hesitated for a long moment, then carefully lifted the lid. Inside lay a delicate diamond bracelet, its facets catching the light in a dazzling display that seemed almost otherworldly in the soft glow of the restaurant's hanging lamps. Engraved along the band were words that resonated with every fiber of her being. "To the teacher who believed." Tears welled in Mia's eyes as she clutched the bracelet, the memories of her youthful encouragement, mingling with the overwhelming realization that the man before her had carried her kindness like a cherished talisman all these years. Spencer continued, "I built my company, Pierce Innovations, because of what you taught me, not the money or the power, but the belief that I could be more than what my circumstances dictated. You didn't just help me see my potential, you changed my life. I want you to have this, not as a gift, but as a promise, that I will never forget the person who gave me hope. Mia's voice quivered as she replied, Spencer, I can't possibly accept this. You have done so much more than I ever expected. But he shook his head firmly. No, Mia, you deserve everything. I owe you a debt that can never be repaid in words alone. He then reached into his briefcase and produced a neatly folded envelope. This, he said, is for you. Consider it a small fraction of the gratitude I feel for all the years you changed my life. Mia opened the envelope slowly, her eyes widening as she saw that it contained a check with an amount that would have seemed impossible just months earlier. A check that symbolized not only financial support, but the promise of a new beginning. Spencer, you're a billionaire now, she said, voice filled with wonder and disbelief. I never imagined that the little teacher from Lakeside Elementary would be standing here, offering me hope, after all these years. Spencer smiled, his eyes glistening with both pride and quiet satisfaction. Mia, I never set out to accumulate wealth just for its own sake. I set out to change my world, and I realized that the greatest change comes from remembering where you came from and who helped you get there. The restaurant's soft ambient noise seemed to recede around them as their conversation deepened, each word a bridge spanning decades of separation and hardship. You were more than a teacher to me, Mia, he said, voice low and earnest. You were my guiding light when I was lost in the darkness of my own limitations. I want you to know that everything I have achieved because you believed in me when no one else did. Mia's tears now fell freely as she looked at the man before her, a man who had risen to unimaginable heights, yet had never forgotten the simple kindness of a teacher who had once seen the potential in a quiet child. I always believed in you, Spencer, she whispered, voice thick with emotion. And I always hoped that one day you would find a way to let me know that my faith wasn't misplaced. For a long moment they sat there in silence, each lost in the reverberations of memories and the promise of a future that was suddenly filled with possibility. Finally, Spencer spoke again, his tone gentle but resolute. Mia, please, promise me that you'll use this new beginning to do what makes you happy. Whether that means returning to teaching, traveling the world, or simply living the life you deserve, you gave me hope when I had none. That in itself is the greatest gift anyone could ever give. Mia smiled through her tears, a fragile yet radiant smile that spoke of renewal and gratitude. You've changed everything, Spencer, she said softly. I never thought that a small act of kindness on an ordinary evening would come full circle to create something so extraordinary. As they sat together, their hands intertwined and their hearts united by shared memories and a deep, unspoken understanding, the bustling restaurant around them faded into the background. In that quiet, intimate space, the echoes of the past merged with the promise of tomorrow. A promise that even in a world filled with unexpected turns and long-forgotten dreams, the simple truth of compassion and love could alter the course of a life. Forever. And so, on that unassuming evening in a quiet Los Angeles bistro, two souls from vastly different worlds found their lives irrevocably intertwined. Spencer Blackwell, a billionaire tech mogul whose every move was dictated by logic and ambition, discovered that his heart still remembered the gentle lessons of his youth, a time when a kind teacher named Mia Anderson had nurtured his dreams with unwavering belief. Mia, now a waitress struggling to make ends meet after the collapse of the teaching profession at her beloved Lakeside Elementary, had long carried the quiet hope that the person who once inspired her would someday find his way back to her. Their encounter, punctuated by whispered confessions, tender revelations, and the delicate clink of a diamond bracelet catching the restaurant's light, set in motion a journey that would forever alter both of their lives. In the weeks that followed, their unexpected reunion sparked a cascade of emotions and decisions. Spencer found himself returning to the bistro repeatedly, drawn not by the lure of an ordinary meal, but by the magnetic pull of a past he thought was lost forever. Every visit, every shared smile and fleeting conversation with Mia deepened his realization that success and wealth were hollow without genuine connection. For Mia, each encounter with Spencer was a bittersweet reminder of a time when dreams were nurtured in the warmth of a classroom, and when hope was as abundant as the afternoon sun. Though she had long resigned herself to the struggles of a life defined by hardship, Spencer's unexpected kindness had rekindled a spark within her, a belief that perhaps, just perhaps, her life could be transformed if she dared to trust in the power of compassion. Their conversations grew longer and more intimate as they navigated the delicate terrain between past and present. Spencer recounted memories of a shy, determined boy who had sat quietly in a classroom, hanging on every word of a caring teacher's encouragement. Mia listened with quiet astonishment as she realized that the boy she had once known had grown into a man of substance, one who had never forgotten the lessons she had tried so hard to impart. "You always told me, Spencer, you can achieve anything if you just believe in yourself," he recalled softly, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I never imagined that those words would lead me here, that I'd be standing in front of you, knowing that you changed my life in ways I can barely express." Mia's response was equally tender. "I always believed in you, Spencer," she said, her voice husky with emotion. "Even when the world told me that my dreams were too big, too foolish to come true, I saw the spark in you, the potential to change not only your own life but the lives of others. And seeing you now, I can't help but wonder what could have been if we had never lost touch." Their shared reminiscences forged a bond that transcended the years, drawing them closer until the barriers between Billionaire and Waitress, between teacher and former student, melted away into a single, unifying truth: that kindness, in its purest form, has the power to transform even the most disparate of lives. Over time, what began as a chance encounter on an ordinary evening evolved into a heart-pounding journey of rediscovery and redemption. Spencer's renewed determination to honor the legacy of his youth inspired him to infuse his corporate ventures with a spirit of philanthropy, channeling resources toward educational initiatives, community outreach programs, and scholarships for underprivileged children. Every boardroom meeting and financial decision became imbued with a new sense of purpose, one that recognized that true success was measured not solely by profit margins, but by the lasting impact one had on others. Mia, reawakened by the gentle reminder of her own worth and the significance of her past, began to take small steps toward reclaiming the dreams she had once held dear. Though the hardships of her recent life had forced her to take on work that she never imagined for herself, the reunion with Spencer sparked a quiet revolution within her, a determination to rebuild, to find the courage to be more than just the sum of her struggles. In the quiet intervals between their meetings, over coffee at the Bistro, during long walks along the moonlit streets of Los Angeles, or in the reflective silence of Spencer's penthouse overlooking the city, they discussed what the future might hold. Spencer confessed that the success he had achieved, the vast empire he had built, had never filled the void left by the absence of genuine connection and the memory of a kind teacher who had believed in him. Mia, her voice soft and sincere, admitted that she had long felt invisible in a world obsessed with appearances and wealth, but that the rediscovery of their past had shown her that her true value lay not in the labels others had imposed, but in the quiet strength of her compassion. "I always wanted to make a difference," she murmured one evening as they sat together in the soft glow of a Los Angeles sunset, "but I never imagined that I could be part of something so much larger than myself." Spencer took her hand and said, "Because you changed my life, Mia. And now, together, we have the chance to change so many others' lives as well." Their shared vision began to take tangible form. With Spencer's resources and strategic acumen, and Mia's renewed passion for teaching and community service, they embarked on a series of projects aimed at bridging the gap between the privileged and the underserved. They partnered with local non-profits to create mentorship programs for at-risk youth, established scholarships for students who showed promise despite humble beginnings, and even funded the renovation of community centers in neighborhoods long neglected by mainstream society. Every initiative, every new program launched, served as a living tribute to that fateful evening when a billionaire's routine was disrupted by the gentle power of remembered kindness. As the months turned into years, the legacy of their chance encounter rippled outward. News outlets and social media channels buzzed with the story of Spencer Blackwell, the billionaire who remembered his roots, and Mia Anderson, a former teacher who had become an unlikely champion for the underprivileged. Their personal journey, marked by bittersweet reunions, tender revelations, and the quiet courage to embrace vulnerability, resonated with countless people who saw in their story the possibility of redemption and the enduring power of hope. One particularly memorable evening, on the eve of a major charity gala organized by one of the non-profits they supported, Spencer and Mia found themselves on a quiet balcony overlooking the twinkling lights of downtown Los Angeles. The warm glow of the city, softened by the gentle hum of night traffic, provided a backdrop as they reflected on the twists of fate that had brought them together. I used to think that success was all about money, power, and the relentless pursuit of achievement, Spencer said softly, his gaze lost in the shimmering vista. But now I know that the most important measure of a person is not the wealth they accumulate, but the love they share and the lives they touch. Mia's eyes shone with quiet determination as she replied, "And I learned that even when life forces you to hide your true self, the kindness you share can one day come back to light your way. I never imagined that the woman I once was, a teacher who believed in the potential of every child, could find her way back through all the hardships and be seen for who she truly is." Their hands met in a gentle squeeze, and in that tender moment, the past, with all its pain and promise, merged seamlessly with the hopeful future they were determined to build together. In the years that followed, as Spencer continued to lead Blackwell Innovations with a renewed sense of purpose, and Mia became a passionate advocate for educational and social reform, their individual paths converged to form a shared legacy. Their combined efforts in philanthropy, community outreach, and personal mentorship began to redefine what it meant to be truly successful. Schools in underprivileged neighborhoods received funding and resources that transformed the learning environment for thousands of children, and community centers blossomed into safe havens where people could receive not only material support, but also emotional guidance and inspiration. At one point, during a large public celebration of their joint initiatives held at a refurbished civic center in a once-forgotten neighborhood of Los Angeles, Spencer took to the stage before an audience of hopeful families, local leaders, and young dreamers. Tonight, he proclaimed in a voice that was both powerful and sincere, "We honor the belief that every act of kindness, no matter how small, can ignite a change that transforms lives. I stand before you not just as a CEO or a businessman, but as someone who was reminded on one fateful evening that our true strength lies in our capacity to care for one another." Mia joined him on stage, her presence a quiet testament to resilience. "And I stand here today, not as the person I once was, but as someone reborn through the power of compassion and the unwavering support of a community that refuses to let anyone be forgotten," she said softly. The applause that followed was thunderous, a resounding affirmation that their message of hope had touched every heart in the room. Even as challenges arose, the ever-present pressures of high-powered business deals, the scrutiny of media and critics, and the occasional lingering doubts about their contrasting backgrounds, Spencer and Mia remained steadfast in their commitment to each other and to the transformative power of kindness. In private moments, when the city's relentless pace softened to a gentle murmur, they would talk for hours about their dreams, their fears, and the promise of a future built on honesty and love. Spencer would often confess that beneath his impeccably managed exterior lay a man who longed for the simple truth of human connection. A truth that Mia had helped him rediscover. Mia, in turn, revealed that despite the hardships that had forced her to leave behind a career she once adored, her heart had never stopped believing that one day, the kindness of a stranger would lead her back to the life and the love she deserved. One cool winter morning, as a thin layer of frost sparkled on the sidewalks of Los Angeles and the first gentle light of dawn broke over the horizon, Spencer and Mia took a quiet drive together along the coastal highway. The rhythmic sound of waves crashing against the shore, the soft caress of the ocean breeze, and the glow of the rising sun created a moment of pure, unadulterated serenity. "I used to measure my success in dollars and deals," Spencer said quietly as they drove side by side. "But now I know that true wealth is found in the kindness we extend, the love we share, and the hope we nurture in others." Mia smiled, her eyes reflecting the calm beauty of the morning. "And I learned that even when life forces you into a world of hardship, a single act of compassion can light the path to redemption. she replied. Their words, spoken in the intimacy of that golden dawn, affirmed the profound transformation that had taken root in both their hearts. A transformation that had turned a chance encounter on a rainy Los Angeles evening into a lifelong commitment to changing the world for the better. In the subsequent years, the legacy of that fateful night continued to blossom. Blackwell Innovations, under Spencer's inspired leadership, launched a series of philanthropic initiatives aimed at uplifting disadvantaged communities. Initiatives that provided scholarships for underprivileged students, supported local food banks, and even funded affordable housing projects. Meanwhile, Mia dedicated herself to the cause of educational reform, speaking at conferences and mentoring young teachers, determined to ensure that no child would ever be deprived of the kindness and encouragement that had once set her own life on a new course. Their personal journey, interwoven with their professional endeavors, became a beacon of hope for many, a living testament to the idea that even in a world driven by relentless ambition and cold calculation, the human heart remains capable of profound transformation through a single, compassionate act. As summer gave way to autumn, the community they helped build continued to flourish. Local newspapers ran stories about the unlikely partnership between a billionaire CEO and a humble former teacher who had once been a waitress, and their story was shared on social media as a reminder that true success is measured by the lives we touch. Families once struggling to survive now had access to safe shelters and educational opportunities, and the neighborhoods that had long been forgotten began to shine with renewed energy and hope. At community events and charity galas, Spencer and Mia often spoke of their journey, the serendipitous moment when a single act of kindness had altered the trajectory of two lives, and how that moment had rippled outward to create a legacy of compassion that touched an entire city. One brisk autumn evening, as the amber hues of the setting sun bathed downtown Los Angeles in a warm golden glow, Spencer and Mia attended a charity gala at a renovated historic theater. The hall, filled with elegantly dressed guests and the soft strains of a live orchestra, was a stark contrast to the modest bistro where they had first met. Yet, in that refined setting, their connection felt even more extraordinary. A quiet bond forged in the crucible of shared memory and an unyielding belief in the power of human kindness. Standing together on a small stage, Spencer addressed the gathered crowd. Tonight, we celebrate not just our achievements, but the quiet moments that remind us what is truly important. We are here because a single act of compassion can change the course of a life, and I am living proof that hope is never lost, no matter how dark the night may seem. Mia stepped forward, her voice soft but unwavering. And I stand here to remind you all that every one of us has the power to transform a life through simple, honest kindness. Let our shared journey be a testament to the enduring strength of hope and the beauty of being truly seen. The applause that followed resonated deeply, a collective affirmation of the values that had brought them together and that would continue to shape their future. In the years that followed, as the seasons turned and their shared initiatives grew, the story of Spencer Blackwell and Mia Anderson became a touchstone for a new vision of success. One defined not by the accumulation of wealth or the power of corporate might, but by the tangible impact of compassion on the lives of everyday people. Spencer continued to lead his company with a renewed sense of purpose, channeling his vast resources into projects that provided meaningful support for underserved communities. Mia, shedding the weight of past disappointments, emerged as a dedicated advocate for educational and social reform, inspiring countless individuals to believe that every life held the potential for renewal. Their intertwined destinies, once marked by the chance intersection of two very different worlds, a world of boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, and a world of humble bistros and heartfelt struggles, had given rise to a movement that transcended class, background, and circumstance. Every time the rain returned to wash the city's streets, every time the neon lights of Los Angeles shimmered in the night, both Spencer and Mia were reminded of that pivotal moment when a stranger's plea and a billionaire's unexpected compassion changed everything. That memory, cherished like the silver key once given to a desperate soul, became a constant source of inspiration, a reminder that even in the harshest storms, hope is only one kind act away. In quiet moments of reflection, Spencer would sit by the expansive windows of his penthouse overlooking the rain-washed city, and he would recall the vivid image of Mia, her eyes shining with determination despite the hardship etched upon her face, the gentle curve of her smile as she offered a moment of reprieve to those in need. And Mia, in the solitude of her modest apartment, would hold close the memories of a time when a man's willingness to help had rekindled her long-dormant belief in a brighter future. A future where no one was defined solely by their struggles, but by the compassion they shared and the hope they inspired. Thus, what began as an ordinary evening in a quiet restaurant, a billionaire's routine, interrupted by the sight of a familiar face in the form of a young waitress who carried the legacy of a past that had once shaped his destiny, grew into a profound journey of redemption, transformation, and enduring love. Spencer Blackwell and Mia Anderson, two souls from vastly different worlds, discovered that even the most carefully constructed lives can be forever altered by a single moment of genuine kindness. Their story, woven from threads of memory, heartbreak, and ultimate hope, stands as a timeless testament to the power of compassion. A reminder that, no matter how deep the scars or how relentless the storm, the human heart is capable of healing when touched by the light of understanding and love. And so, as the city of Los Angeles continued its ceaseless rhythm of rain, reflection, and renewal, Spencer and Mia pressed forward together, on a path that promised not only personal transformation, but also the chance to create a legacy of hope for generations to come. Their journey, marked by unexpected reunions and quiet triumphs, proved that true success is not measured by the height of one's achievements or the size of one's fortune, but by the positive change we bring to the lives of others. In every boardroom meeting, every community event, and every rainy night that followed, their shared conviction echoed softly that even in the darkest moments, the light of a single kind act can guide us home, and that, ultimately, our destinies are defined not by what we possess, but by the love we give and the lives we change.